Some people work hard for their money. Other Americans spend their money on magic beans and pyramid schemes. This isn't about bad investments. This is about the moments when greed murdered common sense and hid the body. Here are 33 times Americans bet their futures on financial fairy tales. 1. Let's start with a classic that swept through suburban America like a plague of stupidity: the Iraqi dinar investment craze. After the fall of Saddam Hussein, thousands of Americans bought millions of worthless Iraqi dinars, convinced that any day now, the currency would revalue and make them instant millionaires. They formed online communities, held prayer circles, and some even quit their jobs to wait for the RV, the revaluation that would turn their $1,000 investment into $3 million. Spoiler alert, 20 years later, they're still waiting. And that stack of dinars is worth less than the box it came in. The only thing that got revalued was their relationship with reality. 2. In 2021, a new cryptocurrency called Squid Game launched, themed after the hit Netflix show where people literally die for money. This should have been the reddest of red flags. Instead, Americans poured in millions, watching the price skyrocket 2,400% in just days. There was just one tiny problem. The developers made it impossible to sell. It was a honeypot scam so obvious that even the name was basically telling you everyone dies except one winner. When the creators pulled the rug, the token went from $2,161 to $0 in 5 minutes. Investors learned that sometimes life really does imitate art, and they were not the main character. 3. Remember when everyone's Aunt Linda became a small business owner by joining a multi-level marketing company? Whether it was leggings, essential oils, or weight loss shakes, millions of Americans believed they were CEOs of their own empire. They alienated friends, turned every social gathering into a sales pitch, and filled their garages with inventory they'd never sell. The real business model? You weren't selling products. You were the product. Statistics show 99% of MLM participants lose money, but hey, at least Aunt Linda has enough essential oils to embalm a small Egyptian dynasty and a Facebook friends list that's 90% blocked. 4. The year was 1637, but the stupidity is timeless. During Tulip Mania, people in Holland traded their houses for flower bulbs. Fast forward to 2021, and Americans did the exact same thing with digital pictures of cartoon apes. NFTs, non-fungible tokens, convinced otherwise rational people that paying $300,000 for a JPEG was not just reasonable, but smart. You don't understand the blockchain, they'd say, while spending their kids' college funds on pixelated punks. When the bubble burst, they learned that non-fungible is just a fancy way of saying non-refundable, and that right-clicking Save As does the same thing as their six-figure purchase. 5. In the 1990s, Beanie Babies weren't just toys, they were retirement plans. Americans spent thousands on small stuffed animals filled with plastic pellets, convinced that Princess Diana Bear would someday fund their golden years. People divorced over Beanie Baby collections, hired armed guards for their storage units, and published price guides treating these toys like rare diamonds. One infamous couple divided their collection in court, kneeling on the courtroom floor to split up worthless bears. Today, those rare Beanie Babies sell for about $5 on eBay, assuming you can find anyone who still cares. Turns out the only thing they were stuffed with was false hope. 6. It's not a pyramid scheme, it's a triangle of opportunity. The airplane game of the 1980s and 90s asked people to buy a seat for $1,500, recruit others, and eventually pilot their own plane to wealth. The math was simple. Get 8 people below you and you'd make $12,000. The math was also impossible. By level 11, you'd need more participants than the entire population of Earth. But that didn't stop suburban wine moms from drawing airplane diagrams at every social gathering, turning PTA meetings into recruitment seminars. When it inevitably collapsed, thousands learned that the only thing taking off was their money, and the only destination was bankruptcy. 7. During the dot-com bubble, Pets.com spent $300 million to sell dog food online, something you could already buy at literally any store. But Americans invested millions because it was on the internet, and everything on the internet was the future, right? They had a sock puppet mascot, a Super Bowl commercial, and a business model that involved shipping 40-pound bags of dog food at a loss. The company lasted 268 days from IPO to liquidation. Investors learned that sometimes just because you can sell something online doesn't mean you should, and that dogs can't actually order their own food, no matter how smart the marketing makes them seem. 8. In 2017, Long Island Iced Tea Corp., a beverage company, changed its name to Long Blockchain Corp. They didn't change their business, didn't develop any blockchain technology, just changed the name. The stock price immediately tripled. This perfectly encapsulated the blockchain mania, where Americans threw money at anything crypto-adjacent. Pizza places became blockchain pizzerias, plumbers became distributed ledger plumbers, and everyone's nephew who understood computers became a cryptocurrency expert. When reality set in, investors discovered that adding blockchain to your name was about as effective as adding extreme to deodorant. It didn't actually change what you were selling. 9. The 1920s gave us the original Charles Ponzi, but the 2000s gave us Bernie Madoff, who ran the largest Ponzi scheme in history. For decades, wealthy Americans handed him billions, seduced by consistent 10 to 12% returns that never fluctuated, even during market crashes. Red flags? The auditing firm had one employee. The trades were cleared by a company no one heard of. The statements were printed in a font no financial firm used. But greed is blind, and FOMO is blinder. When it collapsed, $65 billion was vanished. Retirement funds evaporated and charities closed. The morale? If your investment returns are more consistent than gravity, you're not investing. You're being robbed in slow motion. 10. Lose weight while you sleep. Doctors hate this one weird trick. The diet pill industry convinced Americans that thermodynamics was optional and chemistry could replace willpower. From fen-phen that destroyed heart valves to supplements containing actual tapeworms, people paid billions for magic pills. One company sold exercise in a bottle, literally just caffeine that made your heart race. Another sold fat blockers that worked so well you couldn't leave the house without spare pants. The side effects read like a biological warfare treaty, but hey, summer was coming. The only thing these pills reliably lightened was your wallet, though some did cause weight loss. It's hard to eat when you're in the emergency room. 11. Quantum physics is complicated. So complicated, in fact, that scammers realized they could attach quantum to any product and charge 1,000% more. Quantum water, quantum healing bracelets, quantum pet vitamins. Americans bought it all. One company sold quantum wine that was supposedly enhanced by quantum fields to taste better. Another sold quantum stickers that would optimize your cellular frequency for just $120. The beautiful irony? Actual quantum physicists couldn't explain what any of these products supposedly did because they were nonsense wrapped in scientific-sounding words. But that didn't stop people from buying quantum toothbrushes, convinced they were brushing with the power of parallel universes. 12. The California Gold Rush of 1849 had nothing on the domain name Gold Rush of the 1990s. Americans spent millions registering random word combinations, convinced that owning purpledogfood.com would make them rich when big purple dog food came knocking. People quit jobs to become domain investors, hoarding thousands of URLs like digital real estate. One man famously sold pizza.com for $2.6 million, inspiring millions to register every food adjective combination possible. 20 years later, most of those domains are worth exactly what they cost to register, $12. Turns out companies would rather create new names than pay you $50,000 for besttoiletpaper2000.com. 13. Hey, in the early 2000s, someone realized you could buy a star. Not literally, you can't own celestial bodies, but you could pay $50 to have your name in a company's database next to some coordinates. Americans spent millions buying stars for loved ones, convinced they owned a piece of the universe. The certificates looked official, came with sky charts, and made great romantic gifts. The only problem? It was as legally binding as declaring yourself Emperor of Neptune. Multiple companies sold the same stars to different people, NASA didn't recognize any of it, and your property was 4.2 light years away. But hey, nothing says, I love you like spending money on literally nothing. 14. When OneCoin launched in 2014, it promised to be the Bitcoin killer. The founder, Dr. Ruja Ignatova, wore ball gowns, spoke at massive events, and convinced Americans to invest $4 billion in her revolutionary cryptocurrency. She had a compelling backstory, a convincing accent, and one small issue. OneCoin didn't exist. There was no blockchain, no cryptocurrency, just a website that showed made-up numbers. When investors tried to cash out, they learned the horrible truth. It's hard to sell something that was never real. Dr. Ruka vanished with the money, became one of the FBI's most wanted, and left behind thousands of Americans who learned that just because someone calls themselves doctor doesn't mean they're not prescribing financial poison. 15. The housing bubble of 2008 convinced everyone that real estate only goes up. So when someone invented fractional vacation home ownership, timeshares, Americans lined up with checkbooks. Pay $30,000 to own a condo for 1 week a year. What could go wrong? Everything. The maintenance fees alone could buy an actual vacation. Trading your week was harder than solving a Rubik's Cube blindfolded. And selling it? Good luck. The secondary market was so bad that people literally paid companies to take their timeshares away. Thousands of Americans still own a week in a Florida condo they've never visited, paying annual fees for the privilege of owning one life-fee a second of a dream that became a nightmare. 16. Make $5,000 a week stuffing envelopes from home. These ads appeared in every magazine, promising easy money for mindless work. Americans sent $30-50 for startup kits that would reveal the secret. The secret? The only way to make money stuffing envelopes was to place ads convincing other people to pay you $30-50 for startup kits. It was a pyramid scheme so lazy it didn't even pretend to have a product. But millions fell for it, dreaming of wealth from their kitchen table. They received poorly photocopied instructions on how to scam others and learned that the only thing getting stuffed was their wallet, by someone else. 17. Before cryptocurrency, there was e-gold, digital currency backed by actual gold. At least that's what Americans who invested millions believed. Founded in 1996, it promised to be better than money because it was based on real gold stored in vaults. By 2006, it was processing $2 billion annually. The problem? It became the currency of choice for criminals, and the gold backing was about as real as unicorn tears. When the feds shut it down, investors discovered their digital gold was just digits, and the only thing that was actually golden was the opportunity the founders had to flee with everyone's money. 18. In 2016, thousands of Americans paid up to $15,000 to attend a Trump University, convinced they'd learn real estate secrets from the master himself. The university wasn't accredited, Trump never showed up, and the secret to real estate success was apparently fake it till you make it, which the university itself was doing. Students got high-pressure sales tactics, learned to max out credit cards for more courses, and received a certificate suitable for framing but worthless for anything else. The lawsuits revealed instructors were told to push students to use retirement savings for courses. The only thing students graduated with was debt, and the harsh realization that not everything with a famous name is gold-plated. 19. When silver prices spiked, Late-night infomercials convinced Americans that society was collapsing and only precious metals would save them. "Paper money will be worthless," they screamed, while happily accepting that same paper money for overpriced silver coins. People liquidated retirement accounts to buy rare coins at 300% markup, convinced they were preparing for economic apocalypse. They buried silver in their backyards, filled safes with coins, and waited for society to collapse so they could emerge as the new wealthy elite. Instead, they learned that in an actual apocalypse, you can't eat silver, and nobody's trading antibiotics for your coin collection. 20. Reddit convinced millions that they could destroy Wall Street and get rich by buying GameStop stock. "Diamond hands," they cried. "To the moon," they chanted. And for a brief moment, it worked. The stock went from $20 to $483. The problem? Someone has to buy when you sell, and when everyone's trying to sell at the moon, you crash back to Earth. While a few early adopters made millions, most Americans bought at the peak, convinced they were part of a revolution. They held as it crashed, still believing in the cause, learning that sometimes the real treasure was the money they lost along the way. Wall Street survived. Their savings accounts didn't. 21. Energy deregulation created a new opportunity. Become your own power company. Multi-level marketing met utilities as Americans were convinced they could get rich selling electricity and gas to their neighbors. Companies like Ambit Energy promised massive commissions for signing up friends and family. The pitch was beautiful. Everyone needs power, so everyone's a potential customer. The reality was ugly. Margins were razor thin. Customers switched back after one bill, and your Thanksgiving dinner became a sales presentation. Thousands learned that mixing family and utility bills creates a different kind of power outage, the kind where nobody returns your calls anymore. 22. Win a house for just $100. Charity home raffles exploded across America, promising dream homes for the price of a nice dinner. People bought multiple tickets, convinced their odds were better than the lottery. The fine print revealed the truth. If they didn't sell enough tickets, you'd get cash instead. Usually about 10% of what the house was supposedly worth, minus taxes. Some raffles never drew winners. Others were straight scams, and even legitimate ones had odds worse than getting struck by lightning while winning the regular lottery. But hey, it was for charity, which made losing money feel slightly more noble. 23. The Iraq War created a new investment opportunity, a rocky currency speculation. But why stop there? Americans began collecting currencies from every war-torn nation, convinced that post-conflict rebuilding would make them rich. Vietnamese dong, Afghan Afghani, Zimbabwean dollars. If a country was in chaos, Americans were buying their money. Online forums buzzed with intel from mysterious military sources about imminent revaluations. Storage units filled with worthless paper from failed states. The only thing that revalued was their understanding of foreign exchange, which went from non-existent to expensively educated. 24. Remember when gas prices hit $4 a gallon? That's when devices promising to double your mileage flooded the market. Fuel line magnets, special air filters, pills you dropped in your tank. Americans bought them all. One company sold a vortex generator that was literally a piece of bent metal. Another sold fuel atomizers that did nothing but make a whistling sound. People spent hundreds on devices that violated the laws of thermodynamics, convinced big oil was suppressing the truth. The only thing these gadgets efficiently converted was hope into disappointment, though they did lighten your car by removing money from your wallet. 25. In the 1990s, ostrich farming was pitched as the next big thing. It's the meat of the future, promoters claimed. Americans invested millions in breeding pairs, convinced that soon everyone would be eating ostrich burgers. They built special fences, learned that ostriches are mean, stupid, and can disembowel you with their feet. and discovered that Americans really don't want to eat giant bird meat. The market collapsed faster than you can say, tastes like chicken but costs like gold. Thousands of investors were left with angry, expensive birds that nobody wanted, and the realization that just because you can farm something doesn't mean you should. 26. The Y2K bug was going to end civilization, and smart Americans could profit from the chaos. Survival supply companies convinced people to spend thousands on dried food, generators, and gold coins. One company sold Y2K compliant appliances, regular appliances with a sticker. Another sold software that would protect your computer for just $199. It did literally nothing. January 1st, 2000 came and went without incident, leaving millions of Americans with basements full of canned goods and the embarrassing realization that they'd been preppers for an apocalypse that was never coming. The only systems that actually crashed were their bank accounts. 27. Dropshipping gurus on YouTube convinced millions that they could make $10,000 a month with just a laptop and Wi-Fi. No inventory, no shipping. Just set up a website, mark up products from China, and watch the money roll in. Americans paid thousands for courses teaching what was essentially buy low, sell high, hope nobody notices it takes 6 weeks to ship. They learned about Facebook ad costs, customer service nightmares, and that competing with Amazon using AliExpress is like bringing a butter knife to a gunfight. The gurus made millions selling courses. The students made websites that generated 3 sales and 17 chargebacks. 28. When marijuana legalization began sweeping the nation, penny stocks for cannabis companies became the new gold rush. Companies with no revenue, no products, and sometimes no actual connection to marijuana saw their stocks soar on name alone. Americans invested life savings in companies like Hemp Inc. and Cannabis Sativa, convinced they were getting in on the ground floor. They were getting in on something all right, the basement. Most of these companies were shells, scams, or so poorly run they couldn't sell drugs in a market where the demand literally creates itself. Investors learned that just because something's legal doesn't mean your investment in it is legitimate. 29. Become a social media influencer and make millions. The courses sold for thousands, promising to reveal the secrets of Instagram fame. Americans quit jobs, bought ring lights, and started documenting their incredibly average lives, convinced they were one viral post away from sponsorship deals. They learned hashtag strategies, optimal posting times, and that without actual talent or interesting content, you're just talking to yourself in public. The market became so saturated that actual influencers couldn't make money, let alone Karen from Ohio with 47 followers, including her mom's 3 accounts. The only influence most gained was on their credit scores, negatively. 30. Cryptocurrency created a new breed of scam, the initial coin offering, ICO. Anyone could create a cryptocurrency, write a confusing white paper full of buzzwords, and raise millions. Americans invested in coins like Jesus Coin. Yes, really. Useless Ethereum token. At least they were honest. And Ponzi Coin. They literally told you it was a scam. The formula was simple. Create website, promise revolutionary blockchain technology, use raised money to buy Lamborghini, disappear. Investors threw money at anything with coin in the name, learning that just because something uses blockchain doesn't mean it's not a very high-tech way to steal your money. 31. The self-help industry convinced Americans that the secret to wealth was thinking about it really hard. The Secret sold millions, teaching that the universe was basically a cosmic Amazon that would deliver wealth if you just visualized hard enough. People created vision boards, practiced money affirmations, and maxed out credit cards on seminars where millionaires explained that the secret to becoming a millionaire was charging people to hear how you became a millionaire. The universe did deliver something. Credit card bills and the harsh realization that positive thinking doesn't pay negative bank balances. 32. As America aged, reverse mortgages were sold as free money for seniors. Access your home's equity. Tax-free cash. Stay in your home. What they didn't emphasize, the interest compounds, the fees are enormous, and your heirs inherit nothing but grief. Celebrities pitch them on daytime TV, targeting the vulnerable with promises of golden years funded by home equity. Thousands of seniors lost homes they'd paid off decades ago. Their children discovered the family home now belonged to the bank, and the only thing that reversed was their financial security. It turns out the only thing free about free money is how freely it flows away from you. 33. And finally, the ultimate get-rich-quick scheme that never dies: the lottery. Americans spend $90 billion annually on tickets, more than movies, music, sports, and video games combined. They have elaborate number-picking systems, lucky stores, and the unshakable belief that this time is different. Office pools form, gas station lines stretch, and everyone dreams of telling their boss exactly what they think. The odds of winning Powerball? 1 in 292 million. The odds of being struck by lightning while being eaten by a shark while finding a four-leaf clover? Better. But still they play because someone has to win, forgetting that for that one winner, there are 292 million someones who didn't. That was 33 monuments to financial delusion, and the American belief that wealth is just one weird trick away. But here's the thing, we'll do it again. Right now, someone's inventing the next big thing that will separate hopeful Americans from their money. It'll have a new name, use whatever technology is trending, and promise what all these schemes promised: wealth without work, riches without risk, success without sacrifice. The scams change, but the dream remains the same: beating the system, finding the shortcut, being the smart one who saw what everyone else missed. So here's my question. Which one of these schemes would you have absolutely fallen for if you'd heard about it at the right time? Don't lie. We all have that one pyramid-shaped weakness that sounds just legitimate enough to empty our wallets. Drop your confession in the comments. Hit subscribe if you enjoyed watching other people's financial disasters, and remember, if someone promises to make you rich overnight, the only person getting rich is them, and the only thing happening overnight is your money disappearing. Until next time, keep your money in your wallet and your get-rich-quick schemes and your dreams where they belong.